Hello and welcome. We are going to be completing the CSS profile as an international student. So you definitely want to stick around because I'm going to go through every single question and every single step you'll need to do in order to fill out the CSS profile. Now remember, the CSS profile allows universities to understand your finances, and this is important if you're applying to schools that give need-based financial aid, because they're going to look at these numbers here, and these numbers are the ones that are going to determine how much money you get. So let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is come to the CSS Profile website. It is cssprofile.collegeboard.org. You're going to come to this website, and then you're going to hit on the sign in over here. Once you hit on the sign in, you probably haven't created an account before, so you're going to come down here and you're going to create an account. Now I am going to behave like I am a South African student who's applying for the first time to schools in America. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to type in my name, my last name, my gender, my birth date, and then I'm going to put my email. Now, of course, guys, this is not my birthday, okay? I am filling out some stuff over here, but that's not my birthday. Let's keep on going over here. Let's confirm the email. So my high school graduation. So since I am applying from South Africa, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my high school graduation over here as January of 2018. Now I have a postal code that's going to be outside the United States, since I'm acting like a South African, or basically I'm South African. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click outside the US, right? And then where did you go to school? So this is going to be for the high school that I went to. So I'm going to type that in, and you can see that we might also have an issue here. But again, this is the high school that I've put in here. Of course, I'm no longer in high school because I graduated. So I'd click over this, I'll click over here. If I'm no longer in high school, but if you are, you would type in your high school over there, but I'm no longer in high school. And over here, you can kind of ignore all of this. You can say I'm outside of America. And basically, I'm going to just type in an address over here. So the first line over here is going to be your street address. And then the second line is going to be your house number or your apartment number. So if you have an apartment or a house number, this is where you're going to put it over here, you know, and then the third address can go even more specific. But usually we don't use the third address. It's just the first and the second address. Now the city is where your house is located. And then the postal code, I believe, was 1618. The province was Gauteng, and the country is South Africa. So now we're going to go down over here. If you want to stay connected, I say no, I don't want these emails. And then your parents' information you can put over here. Usually I wouldn't put any information here because most of your parents probably don't understand this whole process here. So I'd leave that empty. I'd hit I agree, and then I'm going to hit continue. Perfect. So now over here, they're going to be asking me some questions. They're saying, hey, confirm. This is my first name, my last name, my email, my gender, and my birthday. Okay, so as you can see, we just confirmed that everything is okay. So I'm going to hit confirm, and now they have sent a verification code to my email. So the verification code has been sent to my email. I am going to open this verification code. So it's going to look something like that. So I'm just going to copy the number. I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to hit verify. And then I'm going to make a password. And then please enter one or more words with no spaces. We'll use this to help verify your identity when you call us. So over here, I can enter something over here, and I'll just call it, or another type of security phrase I'll put over here. Correct. So we've created a College Board account. Your College Board account has been created. This is perfect. So it kind of signs you out. So now what you want to do is actually sign in to complete the CSS profile. You're going to be doing it for the fall 2026 or spring 2027, but basically it's fall 2026 that most people are going to be applying to. You're going to click on that. It's going to give you a bunch of information over here. You're going to agree, and then you're going to now continue your application. So over here, you're going to click that. You're going to get started. So let's go. Okay, so the first thing they're going to be asking over here is basic information about you. So they're going to be asking information about the student, information about your family, your parents' income, and then your student income and assets. Okay, now before you begin, they want you to collect some documents. So income documents, these are like tax returns and stuff like that, and payment stubs. Now again, international students, many people don't have this. It's okay if you don't really have it. There's other ways that you can kind of prove your eligibility. and these assets that you claim. Same thing here with bank statements, etc. Some international students don't have it. There's other documents that you can use. Okay. Not only that, they have frequently asked questions over here that you can open up, and you can look at some of the frequently asked questions. All right. And here it is saying password. So let's put in the password. But yeah, frequently asked questions are over here. So you can see a couple of things over here. And you can see if you have any questions as an international student, this is where you would be coming. Okay, let's keep on going now. So let's continue. Perfect. So we'll first collect information about the student and make sure it's correct. Then we'll move on to the other questions. Okay, so the student information. So you're going to be putting your name over here. That's William Kaseu. My nickname is William Lebor. This nickname you enter here will be shared with colleges and within the application. Okay. That is great. I'm gonna hit continue. You're gonna put your phone number over here. Now you can put your plus whatever number you have over here. I'm gonna put my phone number, and I'm basically going to hide my phone number so not everybody can see it, but I'm gonna put my phone number over here. Then you're gonna put your email. And then you're going to continue. So they don't like the +1. So I'm just going to put my number without the +1. Okay, so let's keep on going. William Lebor. What's my date of birth? I'm going to give the same date of birth I gave before. What's your marital status? So this is if you're married or not. So you can put something over here. Widow, divorced, married, or in a domestic partnership, whatever you are in. William Kaseu's or William Lebor's permanent country of residence. So where you live right now. This is where you live. It's not where you want to live. It's where you live. And what you are a permanent resident of / citizen of. I put South Africa. So confirm this is my birthday. I say yes, and we keep on going. So indicate if these are true for William Lebor, right? So if you look over here, they're going to say financial aid officers may require supporting documentation to make sure these are accurate. So remember that they're going to ask you for those. William Lebor has their own children or other legal dependents, not including their spouse. So this is if you have any children, okay? So remember, if you have a child and the child receives more than 50% of their support from you, then they are a dependent for you. So I do not have a child, but if you had, you'd put yes over here, but I have no child, so I'll say no. Okay, so my home address is basically 123 Main Street, number 10, Kempton Park, 1618, and let's go. Okay, so this is very important, right? This is asking if you have applied before for a CSS, or if you filled out the CSS before, that you need to put in here your CB Fin Aid ID. I haven't, so I'm gonna just, and most people here haven't, so you're just going to hit continue. So perfect, we got this, and let's make sure that this information is accurate and hit continue. Okay, so now they're going to be asking about my parents, and this is where the most important thing starts happening. So first you want to tell them about your parent 1 and then your parent 2. So tell us more. So let's say you have your parent 1 here. So let's say this is my father. Let's save and continue. So that's my father, and then my mother. My mother is Sarah. So let's say this is your mother. And of course you have a place for your stepfather, stepmother, legal guardian, other, or if any of them are deceased. Okay, so perfect. So you can also add another parent over here. All right, so let's hit continue. But okay, so the next thing is household verification. What's the marital status of your parents? So if your parents are separated or married or divorced or unmarried and living together, then you can type any of those in. Mine are married. All right, so I will keep on going. Okay, what country do Matthew and Sarah live? So Matthew and Sarah, they live in South Africa. Okay, so it's important to know what currency you'll be using. Complete your application using the currency most or all of your financial documentation is in. So there's a question here, should you convert your amounts to US dollars? No, enter all financial amounts in the currency you choose here. So what currency am I going to be choosing? I'm going to be choosing the Rand, I guess South African Rand. So you'd use your currency, okay? And hit continue. Now in this section, we'll ask questions about William's current school year. So we're going to hit continue. What is William's current grade level for the 25-26 academic year? So this is right now. What's my current grade level? Now, for most of you guys, you'll be applying from high school or outside of high school, right? So if you're in your last year of high school, that's what you're going to be putting, right? Or if you put not in school, it means you've graduated already, all right? So you can put either 5th, 12th grade or not in school. So what I'll do here is I'll just put not in school. Now add or remove college programs. Okay, so this is your plan for the 2026-2027 period. So remember, you're applying to 2026-2027. So these are all the schools that you want to apply to. All right, so let's continue. Now over here, you want to add the CSS code number for these schools. So what we're going to do is now we're going to be looking for the CSS code number for many of the schools that we want to apply to. Now make sure that you're only really applying to schools that can give you either a CSS fee waiver or an alternative form that you can fill out so that you don't have to pay for the CSS. Now I do have a list of these schools on my community. So if you look on my community, you'll find lists of these schools where you can get CSS fee waivers. But in our example over here, I'm just going to continue with several of the schools that I have listed on my profile. And basically you can take a look at these schools, for instance, and try and apply to them, and because they give CSS fee waivers. But for our example over here, I am going to be going and finding the CSS code number, or you can actually even find the college program's name, but I'll go for the CSS code number. So what I'm going to type in over here is CSS code for University of Rochester. Let's do that. So when you Google it, you'll see that it gives you a code, and this is a code. And this, as you can see, is University of Rochester. So I'm going to select it. And then for University of Rochester, they're going to ask me some questions. Okay, so for the school that I'm going to, they asking me what year am I in the school, right? So when I get to the school, what year will I be? Will I be a first year student, second year, third year? And because I'm applying as a freshman, I'm going to be saying first year undergraduate. So most people are going to be first year undergraduate, okay? And then University of Rochester assigned ID if known. Now you can click here. What does this mean? It says if the school program that you're applying to has assigned you an identification number, enter it here, right? So this would be like the ID number that the school gives you. If you haven't already applied to the school, then you wouldn't probably get this ID number, so you can just leave that blank. Then what are your housing options required? Most of the time, almost all the time, say, at least for your first year, you're going to say on campus. This allows you to get more money from the schools. Most of the time. Are you applying to this school regular decision, early action, or early decision? So you're going to select which one you're applying to over here. Most of the schools are going to be regular decision. You're going to have one school that you can apply to for early decision, okay? And then some schools you can apply for early action. But you hit continue. Now let's add one more school. So I'm going to come over here and maybe let's add Williams College. So Williams College, and now you can see I have to dive in a little bit deeper to find the CSS code, okay? So over here, you can see that I want to find the CSS code, and it's right here. That's the CSS code. So I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to hit search, and you can see, wow, look. So for the Williams College, it does not accept international students. And that's what I mean. There's some schools that don't, and you will see that they give you an alternative form that you can fill in over here. So requirements for US citizens, that's what it is. And then you can find the requirements for international students. Let's go find the requirements for international students. Click here and you'll see for Williams College, you must be indicating yes on the Common App. So Williams College is not a good example over here. So I'm just going to go for another college. Let's actually do Yale University. So Yale University code. Let's go there. Let's take that. So I don't want to add Williams. I want to add Yale, and you can see it accepts international. So we can keep on going. Same thing over here, first year. Again, these will be only the schools that you apply to, guys. This is what you'll be selecting over here. Okay, so once I have my schools, you can see both of them are here. I'm going to say continue. And now they're going to say, tell us more about the programs. So I'm going to click on Yale. You can tell them more. Tell us more. Again, just opens the former options if you want to tell them more. And now I can save and continue. Okay, so great start wrapping up the first section. We're now going to use this information to figure out your CSS profile, right? They're also going to ask questions about your parents over here, their income in particular. And then you need to be sure to have their tax returns, etc. So I'm going to hit continue. Now they're asking for your parents' details, and let's hit continue. And now this is what you're gonna have to do. For your dad, you're gonna have to put the information here. So now we are filling out my parents. I'm gonna put 1970 over here. They're asking for their email address. Basically, they're going to be sharing some information with your parents. This email address will be used by College Board to send information about the financial aid process. It'll be shared only with the colleges and programs receiving this application. So they do require an email. So you're going to put it down over here. All right. So I'm going to write it and keep on going. So highest level of education completed. This is going to be what your parent completed as the highest level. Did they get a college degree, or did they go to university and get a bachelor's degree, etc. So I'm going to click high school over here. Now this is Sarah. Now highest level of education completed, high school. And again, you can also do other or unknown. All right. So we're going to hit continue. And now we need their tax returns. Okay. So for parent one, right? So for Matthew, now they need their tax return. So did Matthew and Sarah file a federal tax return for 2024 required? So this is important if your parents either filed a tax return or not. So some countries there's no tax returns that parents file, others they are. So one of the things is you can look exactly what it is, right? So if parents' country's tax year does not follow the calendar year, report information from last year tax that ended before April 1st, 2025. So either you can say completed, estimated, and not required to file a tax return. You can either click on one of these. This is the one I'm going to select just because this is going to be most common for the people who are watching this video. I'm going to hit continue. So now, okay, to set up the rest of the application, Matthew and Sarah will need the following documents: 2024 tax return, if applicable, and wage statement. So this is their tax return and their wage statements. Again, many of the time, people will not have access to this. So we'll see how we can solve this, okay? So over here, we're going to they're asking the question, how much did Matthew earn from work? Okay, so this includes wage, salaries, compensation, tips, etc. So this is how much money did your father or whoever you put over here earn from their work. So this again is in your native currency, right? So, and it's going to be for the year, okay? So this is for the year. And I want to make sure that we're looking at it to be correct. Yeah, 2024 from each employer. So this is going to be for the year. So let's keep on going over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting in rands, 250,000 rand. Okay. And let's say my mom made the same. So let's continue. So you're going to find out how much they made. And sometimes I might even go back here actually. Sometimes your one parent doesn't make money and you can put 0 over there. Okay, so that's what I'll do actually, put one parent. So parent non-US tax return or non-tax filer, entering information or enter the following amounts for Matthew and Sarah for 2024. If the country's tax year does not follow the calendar year, report information from the last tax year that ended before April 1st, 2025. For example, if the tax year runs from April 1st to March 31st, enter the information for the tax year that ended March 31st, 2025. Okay, so if the tax year runs from July 1st to June 30th, enter the tax information that ended on June 30th. Okay, so this is just giving you information of how you can enter stuff. Again, if you're not too familiar with this, copy it, paste it into ChatGPT. All right, and that'll give you a lot of your answers also. So let's continue. So here's another question. Total compensation from employer required, right? So this is the total compensation from employer, include wages, etc. All right. So this is for parent non-tax return form. So over here, I'm going to be putting the 250,000 for my dad. Now here's the next one. They're asking you, did you get any interest income? So this is from kind of, think of it as stock trading, stock investing. This is money that your parents made as a result of investing money. If your parents, again, most people's parents would have not made any money over here, but if they did make money, this is where you would put it. So my parents didn't make any money from the stock market or from investing. All right. Again, if you're unsure about this, copy it and put it into ChatGPT. Dividends. The next one is dividends, and this comes again from investing. If your parents have invested into a company, they can be entitled to dividends, and those dividends are paid annually or quarterly depending on what company they invested in. Now again, most people this is not going to apply. okay, because it means that your parents own stocks and those stocks are giving your parents back money. Most people do not have this in the regions where you guys are most probably applying from. So over here, I'll put 0. So let's take a look at this next question over here, which is basically the net income from businesses and partnerships. So basically, if any of your parents own a business, okay, if any of your parents own a business, then you're going to be putting information in here for that business. So what's going to happen is they're going to fill this out if they have a business. Now, basically how it works is even if they have an informal business, they're going to fill this out, or you're going to help fill this out for them. So the net income basically means the profit from the business. How much money did they make? So for instance, if after the year they made 100 Rand, this is what you're going to be putting in here. Now remember, it's how much they made. So you have to subtract the money that they got in from the revenue minus the costs of running the ship, right? So over here, you're going to put the amount. And sometimes it's best to also, if you do not have the documentations necessary, to try and estimate it to the best of your knowledge. Net income from rental, real estate, royalties, trusts, etc. This is the thing about it. Most international students are going to be 0 over here, but it's basically, are your parents making any money from loaning out their house, or, you know, giving some, or getting some income from royalties that they got from, you know, a movie or singing or something like that. So most people, this is going to be 0. Income from farms. This is if your parents own a farm or something along those lines. Adding farm products. Again, this is very vital in developing countries where your parents might be selling, you know, fruits and vegetables on the street. So here I have 0. Okay, so let's keep on going. Either other taxable income. So what should you report? So stuff such as capital gains. Capital gains is basically, again, stock market and investing. Most of your parents aren't in that. Then pensions, annuities, unemployment compensation, and alimony. Again, many of these will not apply to people from, you know, very poor African countries in particular. So if your parents have had any of these, and remember, you can copy this and add it to ChatGPT to see what exactly they mean, then you would put a number over here, and this is their taxable income from there. Over here, it's actually 0. Here's another one: pension, annuity, or retirement distributions received, not reported elsewhere on this application. So if they've gotten money from pension or annuity anywhere else, then they need to put it here. Most Africans in particular are going to have 0 over here. It's okay to have zeros. So the next one over here, all taxes, mandatory whole withholdings and set-asides paid or withheld include income taxes. So again, so here what they're basically asking about is they're asking how much money your parents have paid in taxes. So how much money has your parent paid your government in taxes? Okay, so you're going to put that number over here. So for instance, let's say my dad made 250,000 Rand. The tax rate in South Africa is maybe 30%. So he would have paid 30% of 250,000 Rand, which is something like 75,000. Okay, now once you add that, they're going to list the sources and amounts for the taxes and withholding amounts entered above. So this basically says list the sources and amounts for the taxes and withholdings amount entered above. So basically they want you to break down this amount into what exactly was paid. What was paid to the local government, to the state government, to the federal government. You need to make sure that you fill this out. So in particular over here, you know, especially in South Africa, it's probably going to be something like 65,000 was paid to the state. So I'll put 65,000 state, or not state, but national providence. And then 10,000 to the city, for instance. Perfect. Now, next one is going to keep on going. For the next few sections, enter the total amounts from Matthew and Sarah received in 2024. So here you go. Parents' income and benefits. So housing, food, and other living allowances received in 2024 as members of the clergy. Okay, so the next question over here is they asking about income and benefits that your parents may have received from certain professions. So housing, food, and other living allowances that they may have received. Now, this is very specific to different type of jobs. So for instance, if they live in a church and or they're a priest or something like that, or if they are a soldier, typically this is where they'll be getting some living allowances. So if your parents get some type of living allowance, then you would add it over here, but most likely they do not. This would be 0 for most people. Okay, so if your parents live in, for instance, a employment house, so if you do not own a house but you live in a house where your parents is employed in, then that's going to be considered as a benefit that you would put down here. But again, make sure you go to ChatGPT for this. Next one is going to be other untaxed income in 2024, including but not limited to workers' compensation, disability, etc. So if your parents didn't get taxed for anything else, let them know over here, right? Again, this will be 0 for many people. Now again, this might vary for each person. So for instance, if your parents are getting a lot of money from other family members, you can put the amount over here. But I'm going to put 0 because I don't know whether my parents are, or I do not believe my parents are getting income from somewhere else. Alimony received in 2024. This is another one. Alimony in particular is when like your father or your mother have gotten divorced and they're receiving money from their partner, their previous partner. Again, this is not very relevant in many African countries, so this would be 0. Now let's keep on going. Now enter the amounts Matthew and Sarah received or expect to receive in 2025. So this is how much money you think your parents are going to receive. So let's say Matthew was 250,000 before. Let's say he is now 255,000. Okay, so this is going to be an estimate. Same thing with Sarah. My mother's income was 0 the last time. Let's say it is 250,000 now. Let's say she's working now. Okay, either taxable income. So these are other things such as, you know, income they're getting from investing and dividends and stuff like that. So this is going to be 0. Untaxed income and benefits. So again, very similar to the one before. It's stuff like, hey, you know, if you have a 401k and all of these type of things, this is really specific to Americans. Okay, so if you're getting like child support or if your parents are getting child support or workers' compensation, again, not very, very applicable to international students. I would put 0 over here. Perfect. Now let's keep on going. Do you expect change, basically? Now the question is, do Matthew and Sarah expect a significant income change in 2026 due to a new job loss, retirement benefits, etc.? So again, this is what do you think the future is going to look like? Some people are going to say no, some people are going to say yes. Let's go with yes. So Here's a question. Enter the amounts Matthew and Sarah received or expect to receive in 2026 for the following, right? So let's say Matthew's income is going to take a drastic hit. He is going back down to, I don't know, 100,000. Let's put 100,000. Let's say Sarah is also going down to 100,000. Okay, either taxable income. So this is other things again. We're going to put 0 here and we're going to put 0 here. Perfect. Now we'll ask about employment of your parents. So what is Matthew's employment status? Let's say my dad is employed by others. Yeah, you have to describe their occupation. What do they do? So let's say he is a mechanical engineer. Where does he work? You're going to give the name of the company that he works at, ABC Corp. How many years has he worked there? Let's say it's 2 years, and let's continue. Now, which retirement plan does Matthew participate in? Again, most of these are not going to apply to you as an international student. You can either hit other plan over here, or you can just kind of look and see if any of the plans apply to you. You can just copy any of these down and see if they apply to you and put them in ChatGPT and see if they apply to you. You should definitely be asking your dad which one apply to you, but most likely none of them are going to apply to you. Okay. Now let's see Sarah's. Let's say she's self-employed, business owner. So what's Sarah's occupation? I'm going to say biz owner. Where does she work? You can put entrepreneur, and you can also put something like not applicable, right? So NA is not applicable. How many years does Sarah work there? We can put 5 years. Now again, let's say Sarah does put money into a retirement plan. Remember, retirement plan is when they are to retire each month, they're going to be putting money into this retirement plan. So you can say another type of plan. So if you do that, they're going to ask you some more questions over here. Okay, if you say that. So the current value of Sarah's tax deferred and after tax retirement pension and annuity. So this is how much money has she saved up so far in her retirement plan. So we said she has another type of retirement plan. So now you're going to put the amount that she saved up for that retirement plan. Let's say it's just 10,000 rand. So we continue. Now we had housing information, and basically they're going to ask, are your parents' address the same? If it is, then you say yes. So in my instance here, they are. If you say no, they'll ask you where else, where your parents live. What best describes your family housing situation? You can click over here. You can select live with others if student's family lives with family or friends and does not pay rent. So if you're not paying rent. So if you own a house or if your family owns a house, you click that. If you're renting, you click that. If you live with others, you click that. If you have housing provided by an employer, you'll click that. Most people will be renting or living with others. What is Matthew and Sarah's monthly housing payment? So this is how much are they paying per month, okay? Monthly. So they want to see the principal and interest only. Do not include escrow payments, insurance premiums, association or property taxes. So they only want to know how much you guys are paying based on the interest. And then for renters, and this is for homeowners, sorry. And then for renters, you're going to just enter your monthly rental payment. And if you were living with others, it's going to be 0 if you don't pay anything. So over here, let's put out that we are putting a monthly. Remember, this is into the monthly. So the monthly over here, let's just put 10,000 for monthly. Okay, what best describes William's housing situation? Same type of thing here. Are you living with others? Are you renting, right? So this is you, right? So I live with others, right? Because I live with my family. If you live with others, please explain the living situation. I live with my parents. Let's continue. Now, important part of financial aid is understanding who's in your household. On the next pages, we're going to ask questions about people in your household, such as spouse and children. Okay, if you're married, enter information about your spouse. Additionally, enter everyone other than you who lives in your household and receives more than half of their support from you. So if you have a kid, you're going to add dependents over here, okay? So you can add a dependent over here. For instance, let's say San, let's say this is the kiddo. Although I already said I don't have a kiddo, but let's change that now. Relationship, you can say it's a sibling or the child, so the student's child. You can click that, right? And you can keep on going, all right? You can keep on adding dependents. So you can keep on adding someone like your siblings, right? Your step siblings. You can have your siblings over here. You can put them here. Let's do January 2024 and let's continue. So we just have them here. So you keep on adding as many as you need. Okay, let's keep on going. Now just be careful over here. It's remember, additionally, enter everyone other than you who lives in your household and receives more than half of their support from you. So this is people who receive half of their support from you, not from your parents, from you. Okay, so let's say it's a child and then a sibling here doesn't really receive half of their income from you. So we can just have the child. So I removed the stuff. So next they're asking about child support. Now child support is something that's unique for Americans. Did Matthew and Sarah receive child support in 2024? So this is money that you would get from, you know, the biological father or mother of the child if they're not together. So here I'm just going to hit no. Did Matthew and Sarah pay child support in 2024, 25? I'm going to say no. Again, it's if they have children outside. And in fact, let's actually put yes here just to show you guys how it works. Let's say they did pay child support. They're going to ask you how much did they pay, and let's say in total they paid 20,000 rand. Okay, in 2025, how much did Matthew and Sarah pay in child support? Let's go again, 25,000 rand. Perfect. To give a more complete picture of your financial situation, we need to know about some of Matthew and Sarah's expenses. So we continue. Did Matthew and Sarah have any medical or dental expenses not covered by insurance? So here they're asking you, hey, you can put some information here if your parents had to pay out of pocket for insurance or basically for medical expenses, and that weren't covered by insurance. And they honestly want to know if it's more than 33% of their income. So you'd say yes here if that happened or no. And if you say yes, you can click yes and see. They'll say how much money, how much medical and dental expenses not covered by insurance. We can look over here and say, hey, let's say 15,000 rand was not covered by insurance. Let's keep on going. How much medical and dental expenses not covered by insurance in 2025 now? Let's also put 15,000. Okay, so 2024. Now they're asking for 2024. Did Matthew and Sarah have the following expenses? Repayment of any college loan debt in 2024. If they did, you'll say yes. If not, you'll say no. And so I'm just going to say no for both. Did Matthew and Sarah have the following expenses? Alimony. Alimony is paying back your spouse, your ex-spouse, some money. I'm going to say no over here. Now they're asking for other living expenses. So this is going to be things such as your utilities, which is basically how much does your parents pay on the household utilities like water and heat and stuff like that, right? And you want to know this per year. Okay, so this is per year. So per year, let's put 35,000 rand, and that is very cheap. Food for everyone in the household. This is going to be an estimate again. let's put 25,000 rand. Clothing for everyone in the house, let's put 10,000 rand. Housing necessities, and you can look at what it includes. It's stuff like personal care, cleaning, stuff for the house basically. Let's put 25,000. Tell us how much money your parents spends on these other expenses. So transportation to and from work. Let's say this is 25,000. Other expenses not listed above. This is other things. Again, let's say it's 4,100. So I can say cell phones and cell phones, for instance, cell phones and entertainment, something like that. You're going to fill this out. It's going to be to the best of your knowledge. In this section, we'll ask about assets that belong to Matthew and Sarah. To determine, they're going to look at the assets that's owned. Then you'll provide current value for each of the assets. Statements from bank or financial institutions may be helpful for this section. Remember, provide the value of each asset as of today rather than average or original points. This section is entirely about the assets that belong to Matthew and Sarah. So current cash, how much money does your parents have? Let's say they have 36,000 rand. Now let's see. Okay, do William's parents have the following assets? So you can look over here what these assets are. I'm going to say no because they don't have investments. If you put investments, I'll ask you a little bit more about it, but they don't have invested. Do they own real estate beyond the primary home, such as land or something like that? Let's say yes, they own some land. Do they own a farm as part of a farm? Let's say yes. So we can see how those look. Okay, assets they own but are held in names of their children. So if they have assets in the name of their children, you would say yes here, but I say no. So yeah, so number of real estate properties. So I'm going to just say 1. So now they want you to tell you more about the real estate property. So I'm going to tell them more. So the property where it's located, I'm going to put Kempton Park, and I am going to click over here. None of the above. We're going to put the zip code here. What's the current market value? So again, going to be an estimate. Okay, you can try and find out how much money your property or the property of your parents is worth by googling it or putting the property of your parents there and googling it and seeing how much it's worth if they own that property. So let's say it's 100,000 rand. Money owed on this property. How much money do they own on this property, or owe on this property, should I say? Let's say they owe 50,000. So the value is 100,000, but the property is worth 50,000. You can add more real estate. Let's continue. Add about the other real estate over here. Well, basically, let's go back to what they said. So like for this address that I just added, they want more information. Okay, so here, number of months per year this property is rented to others. I can say it's 10 months per year. What is your property's purchase price? Again, not many of you guys will be going through this, but I'm just showing you as an example. It's going to be, let's say it was, well, what year was the property purchased? Sorry, price of this property when they enter the purchase price or market value of the time this property was acquired. Let's say it was acquired for 50,000 rand. That's worth 100,000. Now here you can put the number of businesses owned or operated. You'll put a 1 over here, or 2 or 3 for your parents if they have a business, and then you'll tell people more about the business. So let's say it is just a shop. The current market value of this shop, this could be something like 10,000. Again, it's really up to you to try and estimate the best to your knowledge. Current amount owed on this business is how much money your parents owe on this business. I'm going to put 2,500, and now we can keep on going. Now they want to know more about the business shop. They want to know the address, so let's keep on going. I can just say no address. Let's say it's your mother just walking around. Type of business, you can say sole proprietorship. This is basically, it's a business owned by one person. Okay, primary product or service that your parents are selling. I can say clothing and house furniture. Name of parent who owns the business, so I'm going to put Sarah here. Percentage of parents ownership, it's going to be 100%. The date the business was started, you're going to put the date it was started. Do other family members have ownership or in this business? You can say yes or no. On which tax form is the income of this business reported? You can put other, right? So you can see there's other over here. That's what you would put. Okay, so gross receipts for the business is basically how much money the business brought in before expenses. So this is like your revenue, give or take. So let's say it brought in 65,000 rand. The total expenses for the business in 2024, how much did you spend on the business? Let's say it's 45,000 rand. Do family members receive a salary or wages from this business? So if other family members receive a wage, you'll put it down here. If not, you just say no. Provide additional information about circumstances of the business, so you can give some more insight on the business. I can say she is a street vendor. Save and continue. Number of farms owned, you can put it here. I'm just going to put 0. Now we're going to keep going. Now we're looking at the student's income. So this is my income, right? So I have not filed or will not file a tax return. Now we can keep on going. Again, William, how much money did you earn? You can put the amount of money you can earn, but again, if you're very young and you don't have any money, it's probably 0. They're asking how much money did you earn? How much money did your spouse earn? 0. Tell us more about the income received by William Lebo in 2024. So actually, let's redo this. Let me not put 0. Yeah, so over here, I'm going to click not file the tax return. Let's continue. Let's say the amount I earned was 10,000 rand. And again, this is for the year, okay? Very low, 10,000 rand for the year. Let's say my spouse also received 10,000 rand for the year. Tell us more about the income. Was it interest income? So interest income is not income from work. It's more so from investments. So that is 0 here. And then you can add additional income. So taxable earning and from need-based work programs and taxable grant and scholarship aid. So if you don't understand this, it's basically if you got income from work, study programs, etc., then you need to put it here. Over here, I'm going to put 0 because it doesn't apply to us. Tell us more about untaxed Social Security benefits. Now again, Social Security benefit is for Americans, not for Africans or people abroad. Now tell us more about any untaxed income received by William LeBeau. It's 0. I haven't, it's if you got any other income that wasn't taxed. Okay, now they're asking William's expected income. If William is married, we'll ask about their income on the next page. So here is William's expected earnings. How much money do you expect to earn in the summer of 2026? So let's say I expect to earn 1,000 Rand, or even 5,000 Rand, give or take. Then the next one is how much money will you earn while studying? This is while you're studying, okay, in 2026, 2027. So once you're in America, I think I can earn 50,000 Rands. And then overall, the next one is William's expected other tax income. So it means any other money that will be taxed, like a salary. So this is if you're doing freelance work, etc. You'd put it over here, or contract work. And then William LeBeau's expected other taxed income. So the expected other is stuff like housing allowance, food allowance, government benefits, all of those type of things. Okay, that would come here. So, and capital gain tax and all of those type of things. So that's 0. And then I'm going over here. This is now for the summer. So will you receive any money or support that is not taxed from a job during summer 2026? That's the question that they have over here. That's going to be 0. And then, so again, if you're doing freelancing or something, but I'd still put 0 here for now. Then untaxed income for the school year, I'd put 0 here also. So let's keep on going. Okay, tell us about William LeBeau's spouse's expected income. Let's say my spouse only makes 1,000 or 10,000. This is kind of the same question, so I'm just going to go through them. I'm just going to put 0 and 0. Okay, how much does William LeBeau expect to receive from the following sources to pay for educational experiences? From your parents, how much money do you think you're going to be getting? Be honest here. So maybe 1,500 Rand, or even 0. Okay, scholarship grants from sources other than the colleges or universities. So if you're getting a scholarship outside of the university, you can put the amount here, but most people are going to be 0. Employers, this is if you have tuition benefits, most of you guys, this is going to be 0. Relatives other than their parents, so this is sources from people who who might be giving you money. So maybe people will be giving you, some money. But here I'll put 0. Will William LeBeau receive funds from the government for college expenses? No, most people will not. Most international students will not. Will William receive funds from any agencies or foundations for the college expenses? No. Will William LeBeau receive tuition benefits? No. Will William LeBeau pay for transportation to the US? So this is how you're going to pay for transportation to the US. So you can try and say, hey, gift from relatives other than parents, for instance. Okay, so now we need to get a bigger picture. How much child support will William LeBeau pay? Again, child support is if you have a child and you're paying and you're no longer with the mother. That's the child support that you pay. So that's 0 for me. How much medical dental expenses not covered by insurance did William have to pay? So this is if you had to pay any dental insurance, medical insurance, or dental or medical bills. Now they're looking at the assets of William LeBeau. Do you have investments? Do you have anything that you're investing in? You can say yes or no over here. Do you have a trust? No. Do you have a real estate other than your home? No. Business? No. Farming? No. I just put yes for investments to see how it's going to look like. Okay. How much does William LeBeau currently have in cash and savings? Let's say I have 10,000. How much is the current market value of William LeBeau's investments? Let's say they're 5,000 Rand. And let's continue. So does William LeBeau own any retirement assets? No. Now remember, like the 10,000 Rands, the 5,000 Rands, it's in my currency, okay? It's in my currency, so those aren't in dollars. Okay, select all that have an ongoing financial impact for your family, okay? So check all that apply. You will have an opportunity to explain your sections on your next page. If you do not have any circumstances to report, select 9. So is there a change in employment? You'll be able to talk about that. Is there exceptional medical or dental expenses? You can talk about that. Do you have to support a family member? Do you have recurring, non-recurring income or expenses? Do you have other? Do you have none? So I'm just going to hit other. You can select multiple, but I'll hit other. Okay, so here's where you put the special circumstances, right? So this is where you're going to talk about additional information that will help people understand about your financial situation. This is where you'll tell them about your annual costs paid and additional costs. So your annual costs for something else. So let's say, we have to relocate due to potential flood in the area, and it will cost 30,000 Rand. Now for South Africa to American, and remember, look, I'm always keeping it in my currency, but just to give you guys some context, South Africa's currency compared to America currency is like 20 to 1. So 20,000 Rand is basically $1,000. Okay, so now you can see, as you can see, let's go back to the sections over here. Everything is complete. Now you can review your application. You can skip the review, and now you can hit the certifications that you gave all the important information over here. And you will see that at the end over here is you would have to pay. Now remember, you can get a payment by fee. You can pay by fee payment code. So this is if you send the universities a message asking for a fee waiver, then and you get a code, you can put it here, or else you're going to have to pay. But you can see for 2 colleges, this is how much it will cost. But basically you would pay, and then you would go up to the final stuff, and then you'll submit your CSS profile. And then later on, the schools are going to be asking you to upload some financial documents. So the schools are going to be asking you to do that, and that's where you're going to be doing it, through the schools. Okay, you're not going to be doing it primarily on the Common App here or on the CSS profile. You're going to be filling out or uploading all the documentations that are required to the school's portal. All right, but yes, thank you so much. Hope you guys are good, and hope that this has given you some insight into using the CSS profile.